now. Mark Aitken been a long time friend of mine and a colleague. We both work together at the Scottish Environment Protection Agency. And I was just working out today, Mark, it's 14 years that we've worked together. I can't quite believe that. It only seems like a heartbeat, but 14 years since we started sharing a lift up and down from Uddingston and Hamilton to Stirling when we worked up there. Mark works in our land unit, and as well as he's going to tell you tonight, he is one of Scotland's foremost high-altitude mountaineers. He's also one of Scotland's most recognised experts on soil science. But fortunately, he's not going to talk to you about that tonight, because that would just, I'm sure, would put everybody apart from me to sleep. So yeah, we're going to shy away from that. When I was introducing you into the battalion, Mark, I mentioned that mountaineering has been the passion, probably the greatest passion of your life, and it started off as a very early age, round about the southern Luplands, where bordering on where you were brought up in Lanark. But in your own words, Mark, what really got you into climbing in the first place? What was the first inspiration you had?
Thanks, Kenny, and hello, everybody. Many thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all. Really good question, Kenny, and you're absolutely right there. I lived in Lanark. I could see Tinto from Lanark School, and we used to go there and walk up Tinto when I was very young, about 5 or 6. And then, as I got older, it started going up hills with my parents, like Ben Lomond and the Cobbler and so on. But I think a big thing for me was when I was young, and I probably still do, I love tree climbing. I love making dens and camping and seeing if I could climb further up trees than everybody else. And it was when I went to university at Aberdeen, I sadly found out that my footballing skills were nowhere near good enough to get in any of the football teams. Ditto for the rugby, they were all about a foot bigger than me. But I found out for some reason, unexpectedly, I was actually quite good at climbing. So I joined the climbing club at Aberdeen Uni, and we started off going to all the places round Scotland, Loch Nagar, the Cairngorms, Glencoe, Ben Nevis. Started off rock climbing, then we started off ice climbing, and I just fell in love with it. I thought, this is my sport. This is, with a good bunch of people getting out in beautiful parts of Scotland. And then as students, we did something probably that was a wee bit daft. We decided that having been up Ben Nevis loads of times by different routes, we were ready for the Alps. So I think when we were about sort of 19 or 20, we went to the Alps there. We tried to climb the Matterhorn. We didn't get up it, and really that was the start off. I started regularly going to the Alps, the Pyrenees, and then eventually about 20 years ago, I started going to the Himalayas, and I fell in love with Nepal and the mountains there. But foremostly, my love with the Scottish hills is there, and nearly every weekend I'm out climbing or hill walking in Scotland. I just love it, just great to be out.
Did you ever have the opportunity to do your Duke of Edinburgh when you were at school?
No, our school didn't do that. I suppose the nearest equivalent I got, Kenny, was I was in the Scouts and the Venture Scouts, and I loved that. And I should have mentioned that, because that introduced me to sort of camping and fires and looking after myself, and even found a use later on in life for all the bowlines and sheep pens that they taught me. So I did all the Scout things, the Chief Scouts Award and stuff like that. And actually still remember being so chuffed when I got my Mountaineers badge there, when I was about, I don't know, 13. You didn't have to do that much. I think you had to go up one Monroe and camp for a bit and generally look after yourself. But I was chuffed as anything to get that badge. So it's these small things in life that lead you on one step at a time. But no Duke of Edinburgh. I'd love to have done it, but that didn't happen in Lanark.
Would you recommend that as a scheme to young people interested in mountaineering and the outdoors? Something that would lead them into that?
Oh, very much, Kenny. Every young person I know, and I've recommended, a number, nieces and nephews, and they've loved it and got a lot out of it. And I know one or two people that have actually helped out with the course, and it is a magnificent opportunity. And although I haven't been on it myself, spoken to so much, relatives that have been on it, I just so highly recommend it. It's a marvelous, marvelous opportunity. Really highly recommend it.
I can't quite believe that you spent your time as a scout in Lanark, given your mum lives next door to the Army Cadet Force hut.
That is true. That is true. I mean, we lived somewhere else in Lanark at the time, but we lived at the other end of Lanark, and she only moved there to Moose Bank a few years ago, Kenny. But I must admit, I didn't even know the cadets were in Lanark at the time. This is going back a long time ago. We're talking about 40 years, really.
No, and unfortunately that's a common thing with the community in Lanark, but we'll not go into that right now. Mark, one of the things that we're really interested in finding out about, you've mentioned your love of the Scottish Hills, and we'll maybe come back to that later on, because I think there's some of the things you described to me in our call the other night there, I think are really relevant for the cadets and the adults to hear about that. But you mentioned that I think your greatest love is Nepal and the Himalayas. And one of the things we'd be really interested in hearing about is, it's not an easy thing to do, organising an expedition there. Can you run us through how you would prepare for that in terms of identifying all the different travel arrangements, and also some of the most important stuff about guides and about expedition equipment, all that kind of stuff? Can you maybe describe how, in brief terms, how you would go about organising an expedition like that?
Yes, yeah. It's sometimes the fun bit of it, and I now organise my own trips to the Himalayas now. In the past, I used to use commercial organisations who would more or less do everything for you, and that's a good way to go there for the first time. You get an organisation that does everything. But now I'm quite lucky. I've got some great Sherpa friends there, and it's really getting on the phone to them and discussing things. Organising your flights and doing a lot of homework on mountains there. For example, a lot of people go to the same peaks, but I like to go to the more remote ones, and I've been quite lucky to go to ones that haven't been climbed before, and that's thanks to Sherpa friends who are quite desperate to go to new mountains and see new areas. And they're a bit like us Scottish people. They want to see their own country. They don't want to keep going back to the same area. So I'll speak to these guys, and it's a lot of looking through maps beforehand and Google Earth and planning and working out if you've got enough time to be acclimatized properly, then getting all your equipment together. That is key to it, because of course once you're out in the mountains and you suddenly realise you've forgotten an ice axe, or you don't have warm gloves, you're in trouble, really. So
yeah, you talk about equipment, and I'm sure, as you'll see, everybody, as you see when Mark shows you some of the videos and of his exploits, you'll see just how technical this is in terms of an endeavour. I'm not going to call it a sport, because it goes way beyond sport, I think. Mark, can you maybe give us a flavour of some of the type of equipment you'd have to carry if you were going on an expedition to the Himalayas?
Sure, I've actually piled some up here, Kenny, and I'll go through these quickly. Most important bit, of course, is boots. These are light boots, probably right for Scotland in the summer, but in winter in Scotland, and peaks up to about 4,000, 5,000 meters. I'll use something like that. But as you're getting into Himalayas, you're starting to get to very cold conditions, and I'd be using boots like this up to about 7,000 meters. These are really warm, and one of the most common injury in the mountains is actually frostbite, and people do lose toes. So it's looking after your digits and toes is important. And finally, for some of the big mountains I've been up, I've used a book like this. So I've used that in Alaska and in the Arctic, where this boot is designed for -40. So it keeps you nice and warm. It's obviously very solid and it's very heavy, so they've got the downsides. But the real exciting equipment is in my rucksack here. Let's have a wee look here. Not quite. So, you know, things like getting a good, I'm just going to turn this around so you can see this better. Getting a good ice axe there. You know, you might want a hammer to put pitons in or ice screws in. This is for getting onto the ice there. You've got a sharp point here as well. You have, normally for quite technical routes, we actually use 2 of these, you know, for going up technical terrain there. It's also very important, not just for climbing, but as a safety equipment. If you fall down, it's getting that pick into the ground, and that's saved many people's lives. So, you know, ice axe is one of the key bits of equipment there. You want a decent tent, and as you can see in some of my videos, you know, the grounds, we're often sleeping on glaciers or stones, so you want maybe 1 or 2 of these. And we'll just go into the more technical equipment now. This is a pair of crampons.
Can't quite see that, Mark. Could you lift the camera? That's it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Drop the camera down a little bit.
This is a pair of crampons there, and these are basically attached to your boots, which allow you to go across glaciers and also, you know, walk on hard snow and ice. So these go onto the boots, and you see how you've got very sharp steel points there anyway. So as you walk along, you don't slip. But also, it's got what's called a front point here, and that means on vertical ground, you can kick into the ice there, and that will go in about 1 centimetre, and that will keep you safe. You're obviously using your ice axes as well there. So these are essential pieces of equipment, crampons.
I was asked there, Mark, how many times you've injured yourself with the jaggy points on your crampons and your ice axes.
Aye, good question. When I was young, I think everyone makes that mistake. You generally only do it once anyway, because you realise how painful it is. It's a really good question, because people sometimes they bum slide with a pair of crampons and that causes an injury. And I know one of my relatives was actually a doctor at the Fort William Hospital, and ice axe injuries were one of the most common ones that he saw anyway. So I haven't for a very long time, but we always talk when we put crampons to walk like John Wayne, keep legs well apart, because a common thing is to trip up with crampons, spikes going into your trousers. So just some more technical equipment here. This is a harness that goes around your waist. And if we just keep the theme of ice going along, this shows you ice screws there, and we can screw these into the ice to keep yourself and the person you're climbing with safe. So you have ice screws of different sizes there. Basically, you whirl these into the ice there, and the person, after they've got up to it, can take it back out again. But there's other equipment as well there. There's things, if there's not ice about, there's things called camming devices, or also known as friends there. If you get a crack in the rock, you go like that, put it in, and that jams like that and keeps you safe. And similarly, you can do it with these things. We call these rocks. You can jam them in the rocks, just like, you know, if there was a rock crack here, you put it in the rocks like this, and then you might want to put something round called a runner, which is basically a crampon, a carabiner with another sling attached to it. So you have that goes into the rock or the carabiner, and then the rope goes through that, and that's a mechanism to keep you safe. So you can see it can be very heavy depending on the route you're doing. Mainly in Scotland, you're not having as much as this, but for very long routes, you could be carrying something like this. I don't know the weight, but it must be, you know, 3 or 4 kilograms or thereabouts. And things like you might also have, well, you always have, this is a belay device. It's also used for abseiling. A lot of the routes that I do, you see some videos of it, I'll abseil down. You might have safety equipment. It's a special knot, Prusik knot, which means that if you fall down a crevasse, you can actually rescue yourself with knowing how to do a Prusik knot. So these are loops, and a special knot that means you can push the rope, you can push the cord up the rope, but it won't slip down. So it's learning these knots and learning how to use the equipment. That's another belay device there. I've always got maybe a knife attached to the harness as well. Just sometimes you need to cut bits of rope off when you're making when you're making abseils. So I really can't remember what else I've got in here. I've definitely got the rope. You can see rope's quite heavy. This is 60 meters, 1 centimeter diameter, and that's sort of standard rope that you might use when you're there anyway. So rope is absolutely essential, and like every piece of equipment, but rope in particular, you really got to look after this. There's been some bad accidents with people standing on crampons with the rope. Obviously, helmet, absolutely essential, not just from falling, but in the mountains you can have problems of rockfall and avalanches, and just need to protect your head. This is just a stove. I'm sure some of you use this. I like this wee jet boil there, nice and compact, heats up things quickly. Got the stove here, over here, and then it fits in the gas as well. It's that is 10 litres of water there. So absolutely fits up the stove. Something to eat from that. I think that's all the exciting stuff, but not forgetting in the top pocket, I'll put all the crucial stuff. So a head torch, and you'll see quite a lot of my trips involve at the start. You're often starting at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, when the crevasses are safe to cross. So you need the head torch. You know, everywhere I go, you know, a map, and there should be a compass. I'll have a compass somewhere else. When I'm going on expeditions, we need to keep GPS, cameras, mobiles, although there's no reception, but just for music and books and so on, charged. So I've got bigger ones than these for my tent, but I can attach this solar charger to my rucksack and charge up stuff when I'm walking. And I have a wee bag as well, first aid always there, regardless of whether I'm Scotland, the Himalayas, maybe GPS. A very small survival bag, and of course the compass. So that's the sort of stuff that I'd have there, Kenny. And
so, yeah, that's great, Mark. It doesn't look cheap, and imagine it's not a pastime that you can actively get into at the level you are. Very cheaply, but you know, if you're just starting out, what would you say were the absolutely essential items for somebody who say just to go up Tinto Hills, for example?
I think having a comfortable pair of boots there anyway, you know, that's comfortable and you're not going to get blisters. I think is important, and also thinking about do I need gloves, a hat, and so on like that. So you're absolutely right, Kenny. So this equipment all quite specialised, really for sort of hill walking in Scotland. Just making sure your boots are comfortable and you're not going to get blisters. In very good weather, you might get away with something lighter than boots as well. There, if you know the weather is going to be good, and you're getting a little bit of support, that is important. That you wear boots if it's going to be slippy or there's going to be snow there or something. So I think, you know, I started off life just having to. I was about to say beg, borrow, and steal, but I didn't steal anything. But literally, as a young person, I found it very difficult. So I was buying a lot of stuff secondhand, and also sharing things with mates. So not all of us would buy something. We would make sure that one person had a stove, and you know, one person had a tent, and so on like that. And also, I think for you, if you're really keen, is actually joining a mountaineering or a hill walking club, where they often encourage sharing of equipment. And you know, Lanarkshire's great in Glasgow for hill walking and mountaineering clubs. You know, a good way for getting equipment, really. But also sort of looking online, you can get some good deals online, particularly of second-hand stuff. You know, that people are selling anyway.
Excellent stuff, Mark. And actually, you've reminded me how when I first started off my training as an ACF instructor, you taught me how to use a compass in the car park in Stirling at our office. So that's happy memories back then. So that's the kind of equipment type stuff. And before we get into the videos, which I'm sure is going to be where most people are going to get the most out of our session tonight, that's the equipment. What about personal fitness? What do you do? I mean, obviously, you'll see, folks, when Mark shows the videos, just how extreme some of the expeditions he goes on are. What do you do to maintain your own level of personal fitness for that?
I think because I'm sort of addicted to the Scottish mountains, Kenny, and you know, I'm out every weekend, and you know, almost regardless of the weather. I mean, I'll pick a sensible place if the weather's bad, but I'll still get out in the hills, or if the weather's better, I might be climbing. So I think that maintains it, and I very much feel that if you can hill walk in Scotland all year, you know, in the winter particularly, you can mountaineer anywhere in the world. You know, Scottish mountains, particularly in winter, once you've been trained to do it in winter and have got friends who experienced it in it, it gives you all the experience and also the fitness and the training you need for the bigger peaks. It's interesting to me that Sherpa friends, and I've got sort of people who are professional guides in the Alps and also the Rocky Mountains in Canada. They all hold Scottish mountains, particularly in winter, in very high respect, and they know it makes the ideal training ground. And just all the famous Scottish and British climbers there, you know, you think about people like Hamish McInnes or W.H. Murray, Chris Bonington, Doug Scott, Stephen Venables. They learned everything in Scotland, you know, and they were getting up to Scotland before they started going to the Himalayas. So I think it's getting out regularly to the hills. Even things like going up Tinto regularly. That gives you a mountain fitness that would allow you, with time, to do some of the bigger, easier, non-technical mountains. I've got no doubt about it.
Okay, brilliant. And I know, folks, just how fit Mark is in that. And I probably shouldn't say this because there's quite a few Scottish taxpayers on this call, but there used to be, when we were doing late night working in SEPA back in the day, there used to be a handstand club in the Erskine Court, and I know that Mark can actually walk on his hands. His upper body strength is so extreme. So I hasten to say I can, but Mark can. Okay, so Mark, moving on there, if that's the preparation, equipment-wise and physical-wise, it's maybe a good time now to introduce some of the cadets and adults to Nepal as a country. And I know we've got some videos there that maybe will give a flavour of the culture before we maybe move into the videos that show the actual climbing itself.
Great, Kenny. Well, what I'd like to do, if everyone wants, is maybe start off with a wee introduction to the capital of Nepal, which is Kathmandu. It's almost in the centre of Nepal, and for me, it's one of the thrills of going to the mountain areas is actually seeing the people, meeting the people, talking to the people. So let me just get that video up. For everybody, most of these videos there, I'm not going to show all in that list. Are about a minute or 2 minutes long. But we'll just give this a wee flavour of Kathmandu. You can see there's a lot of temples there. These are Hindu temples.
You'll need. Sorry, Mark. You need to enable the. You'll need to enable the sound and the video on the share.
Sorry.
You go back a step.
Share. New share, Kenny.
If you go back a step, and you'll see at the bottom of the screen, it will be the enable volume and enable video.
Sorry, folks. Sorry about this, everybody. I'm struggling a bit to find it. I'm currently at screen sharing.
Right. If anybody's got any, because we did rehearse this and it worked fine.
So on the
For
top
some reason.
So at the top of the screen, you get your sharing your screen. There should be use your audio.
Maybe under view options.
Stop.
Right, bear with us, folks. We'll just sort this out in a minute. See it. There we go.
Is that good?
Yep. Just press play now, Mark. That's us.
Okay. So apologies, everybody. My fault. I'm not very good technically. So folks, this is Kathmandu. You can actually notice there's a fire going on there. That's actually they cremate bodies there because the river next to all these temples, that's a holy river that eventually gets down towards the Ganges in India. So that's what's going on there. But
you need to press play, Mark. That's it. Yep, we're going now.
Good show. So there we go. You know, these temples there are about 600 years old there, and you can just get a feel for the atmosphere of it. But it's interesting. It's not just Hindu; it's also Buddhist. And the two religions are together, side by side, temples side by side, and there's no problems between these two religions. For example, that's what's called a stupa. It's the biggest stupa in the world there. It's a Buddhist temple there, and they've got prayer flags there. And these prayer flags will give out the message Om Padme Hum. These are prayer wheels there, and these will have prayers that go up to heaven when you spin them. And even monkeys, lots of monkeys about, and just outside you start to get into the foothills there. So I think that's everything on that one, Kenny. Now I'm just wondering if I'll be able to do the next one, or are you still seeing my screen, Kenny?
Yeah, everything's fine, mate. Carry on.
Okay. So this next one, just a wee bit more of local culture there anyway. As you're particularly south of Kathmandu, this is a nice form of transport there anyway. I mean, look at the electricity work on that pylon there. It's probably not the best in the world there. But then you get away from elephants, you start to get in the mountains there, and great if you can get a mule. A mule can maybe carry 100 kilograms of equipment. These guys are monks there. We actually played them at handball, and they well and truly beat us. And you get yaks there. Yaks sometimes can help us carry equipment up as well, but you can see they're very dangerous. You don't want to be on the wrong side of one of their horns. And as you go further up, you get into some of the villages there. And for me, that's when Nepal becomes magic. Through my Sherpa friends, I've learnt a bit of Nepali and some of the local dialects there. But they do some speaking for me. And it's speaking to some of these people who don't have electricity, don't have satellites. Some of these villages we've been to, they've never seen Westerners before in their life, particularly some of the women there. So these are very remote parts of Nepal. If you go to Annapurna or Mount Everest area, they'll all have seen it. But we've gone a bit off-piste here into a remote area. We were actually going to climb an unclimbed peak that no one had been at the valley before. So it was quite an honour doing that and seeing some of the wildlife there. This is the peak there, it's called Pisang. This is the view from our campsite up it. So it was just, you know, it was a great expedition. That was quite an early one. It was a very cold night. I remember when I took this video, and my tent was a bit exposed, but it was just a privilege doing it.
How do you get from Kathmandu to the mountains, Mark?
Well, there's different ways, Kenny. We were talking about, before everyone else came on, we were talking about Langtang. I think it was Marie had been to Langtang, and it's somewhere that you could drive to. It takes about 7 hours to drive to. Nepal roads are not very good, and there's a lot of congestion. It's not a great journey, but about sort of 7 hour trip. That'll take you to the outskirts of the mountains. But to get into the mountains properly, it might take you another 3 or 4 days walking. For some other mountain areas, like people going up to Everest Base Camp, usually people take a plane to a place called Lukla, and it's maybe a 30-minute flight from Kathmandu to Lukla, which is in the mountains already. So that takes you to about 3,000 meters straight away, and then to get to Everest Base Camp, that might be another, you know, sort of 8, 9, 10 day walk from there. So buses and you know, sometimes flights as well is getting into the mountains. But sometimes there's an advantage walking in because it helps with your acclimatization. It gets you fit before you get to the mountains.
Absolutely. Excellent. So yeah, carry on, Mark, carry on.
So the next one I wanted to show you is just what village life is like. As I say, this is one of the things that I love about Nepal, and it's just seeing these villagers, and I found them all very friendly. And you can see these ladies are no combine harvester there. They're just threshing the grain there, like we used to do maybe 200 years ago. And notice how much they're smiling. These aren't poor people, but they're happy people. I've noticed that with the kids as well there. There's a lot of happiness, there's a lot of smiling about there, you know, which is fantastic to see, you know. And you can see it is very hard work here. You know, you can see a man loading up, and then he's carrying his forage back. He's probably preparing forage for the winter for maybe one cow that he has there. This lady, I still remember her. She actually made me a belt, which was great. You know, which she didn't want any money for, but I paid for. You got this man with his good Gurkha type knife, just preparing a fence. Everything's all natural. You notice he was tying things with bark from trees there. So it just shows some of the agriculture there. You got this boy looking after his cows, and you got some of these beautiful villages out there. And this village is called Langtang. It actually got destroyed in the earthquake 5 years ago, so quite sad to look at that just now. But this is another bit of the Langtang. It didn't get destroyed, and it's just a wonderful, beautiful area there. And you can see this is called Kaijang Gompa, this area there. It's about 4,000 meters, and it's a really good base for having climbs.
Okay.
So that was. So I'm next, Kenny. If people, I'm sure everyone's nearly asleep by now, but let's get on to the climbing there. That's what we love, the culture.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We'll do some wee climbing scenes now, I think. You know, this is a mountain called Chulu. This is our campsite there. It was a cold camp. It had been raining and snowing, but in the morning it was fantastic weather. It was great, and we're ready to go, get up some mountains. You know, that's what we're here for. Just like in Scotland, it's all down to the weather, and we got a cracker of a day for weather. So it was just a privilege to be out. And you know, it's the same in Scotland. Get a good day on the Ben or Glencoe, it can't be beaten. That's looking down a crevasse that we had to cross. And then I'm going with my friend Ongchu, who's in the lead there. But we swapped about leads, and it's just me and Ongchu. So it's something good like that, having a small expedition with just me and one other, having turns about leading and getting up the mountain ourselves in perfect conditions there. Nobody else about, and just fantastic views. It's about 21,000 feet, this mountain. That's us on the summit ridge. And you've just got that great feeling of camaraderie and teamwork, you know, working together, sharing a rope together. We talk about the brotherhood of the rope or the sisterhood of the rope. where you're both looking after each other and making sure that all is safe. And Ongchu's a great English speaker, and he's taught me a lot about the culture in Nepal. You know, I've seen his family, seen his kids, and it's been a privilege, really. And that was a mountain that I really enjoyed doing anyway. That's it in the background there. It was just very nice to be climbing this remote peak there. It had been climbed before, but it's not such a common one. And every year, 500, 600 people climb Mount Everest. For this mountain here, every year, you might get 0, you might get 1 or 2 people climb it. And I kind of know what one I prefer climbing.
Do you have to use oxygen, Mark, at that altitude?
You generally, people start using oxygen just a little bit higher anyway. Generally about 6,000, 6,500, sometimes 7,000 people start using it. Although if you acclimatise properly, you should be able to get up to about 7,000 metres without using oxygen. So certainly I've got to that height without oxygen, but I've been very careful about acclimatising properly, going slowly, drinking plenty of water, and so on and so forth. But I do notice, particularly some rich people who maybe time is money for them, or they've not put in the training, they'll use oxygen, and there's no doubt about it, they will get up the mountain a lot faster. But for me, there's something about the ethics in climbing as well there, and I feel that it's doing it more properly without having oxygen. I think you need it on somewhere like Mount Everest, although roughly 5% of people that climb Mount Everest haven't used oxygen, and so it can be done without, but it will take a lot longer. And some people, they might use 10 canisters of oxygen, and that's got a big impact on Sherpas who need to carry it up for them. So I prefer looking after myself and not having Sherpas having to carry equipment about for you all the time. And also, if something goes wrong with your oxygen cylinder, you're not acclimatized properly, and suddenly it jams or it freezes up, you're in trouble.
Okay, excellent. So yeah.
So I'm going to do another mountain called Mira Peak here, and it will just it's a big mountain, but it's quite an easy one. 6,600 meters, 22,000 feet. Fantastic viewpoint there anyway. Probably one of the best viewpoints that I've had in the Himalayas. It doesn't beat Skye, which I think is the best viewpoint in the world when you're in the Kulins, but as a close second, I think this one here, you can actually see 8 of the highest mountains in the world from this peak. So you see Mount Everest and Lhotse, Makalu, Manaslu, Annapurna, Shishpangma, these big 8,000 meter mountains there anyway. I think we'll shortly see Mount Everest, although I think some of the other videos I've got coming up will show you. I think Everest is just about, yeah, that's Everest there, the pointy one there anyway. That's Mount Everest. So it's great to see Mount Everest, and although I don't really want to climb it at all, I can't afford to climb it, time-wise and money-wise. I love the history of Mount Everest, and the sort of the teamwork and the organisation and the whole history of how people started trying to climb it and the eventual success in 1953. So that was a nice peak called Mira Peak.
Maybe get one more in, Mark, and then we'll do some questions. There's loads of them coming in the chat.
Oh, right. Well, just give me the easy ones, please. No,
worries.
Oh, I'd like to thank everyone for putting stuff on chat. That's great. I'm going to look forward to it. So one more, and this is in the Annapurna area there, and it's just some of the hills to begin with. That's Dhaulagiri, big mountain that's potentially, it was the last of the 8,000 meter mountains to be climbed in 1959. And that's Machu Picchu. No one's been up that mountain ever. It's a holy mountain. The Nepal don't allow people to go up it, which is their country. They're entitled to, and it's far too difficult for me anyway, So, this peak here, this shows our base camp. There's my mate Dave giving me a silly wave there, and in the background you can see we're climbing this peak and one other. So we're basically climbing the ridge line of this peak, and you'll see us climbing up very shortly. But also you'll see that the Sherpas were in the lead there, and what a great job they did in the lead. This is the Annapurnas itself. That's our base camp, and got astounding views from the base camp, and a really comfortable base camp with this view of the south face there. We were far away from them, a lot of avalanches when we were there, so we changed the route that we were going up because of the avalanche risk, just because of the particular weather and the snow, big avalanche risk there, which we've got that in Scotland as well. You've got to change your route or change what you're doing. So we're basically going up the main ridge there of this mountain. The lead four are going up, some climbing friends who have climbed with a lot before, but this does a 360, and you come back and we'll see the route up it, but we'll also see Mingma and Nima, two of my Sherpa friends. They're in the lead. They're finding the safe route up and also making sure there's no avalanche risk. So it was great to operate with these boys. These boys are pretty experienced. Mingma's climbed Everest 12 times. So so I'm behind. I'm pretending I'm playing with my camera, but really I'm having a rest. I'm just zooming up the route now, and you can see Mingma and Nima there, both Sherpas, climbing up the mountain, checking that the route is safe, putting in a safety rope for us. And you can see not far to go. They've probably got about 200 metres of climbing to get to the top. But you can see you've got a tricky cornice there that we need to think about. So we went around a slightly different way. So climbing up the mountain, you can just see it's slow going because of acclimatization, quite hard, the snow. If you went off the ridge, there would be a big avalanche risk. And avalanches kill. They kill in Scotland most years. They'll kill in Nepal a lot as well there. So just some views as we're getting near the top. Machu Picchu, the Holy Mountain. You see people approaching the top then, and it's always a great feeling getting to the top of every mountain. Doesn't matter whether it's Tinto, Ben Nevis, and that's us heading down. You can see it's the four friends, fitter and younger than me, in the lead. I'm still having a whale of a time at the top, but I'm actually happy to be enjoying the view there. And it's just a great feeling, you know, getting there with my friends, a nice expedition, good friends, good camaraderie, and a good laugh as well. And we got up the mountain too.
Okay, brilliant stuff, Mark. Brilliant stuff. If you could stop the share, I'll cover some of the questions that we've got here.
Kenny, I've lost sound now.
Oh, no! If you just stop the share, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, Mark, can you hear me?
I think he's lost sound.
Check your computer's not muted itself.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you
you're
hear me,
back.
Kenny. I'm not hearing you.
No, I check the sound's not gone off. Yeah, I know. I'll send you a wee thing on the chat, just to check that your sound's not got off.
Can you hear me, Kenny?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh dear. Oh no. Right. Okay. What? Ooh, I'm going to try and send Mark a message. Right. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on, folks. Bear with me. I'm just sending Mark a message. Hopefully he'll get it on his phone. Right, I'll see. Let me check his phone. My computer does this, it occasionally mutes itself. No, you can't hear me, Mark. No. Folks, I think technology has let us down, unfortunately. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Right, okay, so bear with us just a wee second. I'm going to get Mark to... Hold on.
Kenny, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Want to speak on the phone?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hold on. We'll get this sorted. Don't worry.
Hi, Kenny.
Right, can you leave and rejoin the meeting, or can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Right, okay, we're going to leave my phone there. Right, okay, Mark. So, can everybody hear Mark? Yes, good. Everybody can hear. Everybody can hear Mark. Okay, so we'll muddle on regardless with this one just now. That was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Couple of things that maybe you could talk to the cadets a little bit about is the thing I find fascinating is the climb high and sleep low.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so climb high, sleep low. The idea behind that is you might climb to 4,000 meters, but then camp at 3,500 meters. I'm just going to switch. I'm just going to reduce the phone. I'm getting quite a lot of feedback on this, so putting this down. I think that's better. I'll put it up when you speak. So the idea behind that, Kenny, is the worst thing you could do is maybe go up to 3,000 meters, have a camp there, then the next day climb up to 4,000 meters without and have a camp there. Just the cumulative effect and risk of getting high altitude problems is very strong. So really the best technique would be when you get to a camp, say 4,000, when you get to 4,000 meters, camping lower down. So you dump your gear at 3,500 meters, maybe get up your tents, have a brew, and then climb up another few hundred meters just to help get yourself acclimatized, spend some time there, enjoy the views, but then come down to your tent. And that is a lot better. That's a really good technique, what you say, the climb high, sleep low, to make sure you're safely acclimatized.
Okay. Yeah. So what would you say is your scariest moment in your climbing career? What's the thing that sticks in your mind?
Oh, right. Well, I've had a few scary times anyway. I guess my main one wasn't in the Himalayas. It was actually in Kyrgyzstan with a climbing friend called Alexei. Alexei is Russian, and he's a climbing guide there, very professional, very accomplished, and he far better climber than me. And I was wanting to do one mountain. It was the highest mountain in this range there. It's about 5,000 meters, and I suggested a route, and Alexei kindly agreed to it. And we went to it with a couple of camps to reach the mountain. And when we were there, Alexei was looking at the north face, which no one had ever climbed the north face of this route before. And he said, "You know something, Mark? I reckon we could do this. You could do it." And I was so excited at doing this route there that I went up with him, and because it'd been such beautiful, fantastic weather, and we got about 3/4 of the way up. The weather forecast had been good. Alexei had been leading it all the way, apart from a couple of easy bits that he allowed me to lead. So we're using our 2 axes and the crampons, when suddenly the weather completely changed. Really bad winds, snow coming howling in. But it was my decision as well, and I've learned from this, we both had summit fever. We realized we were so close to the top, and to be the first person to do the north face of this mountain, that we continued on. So we got to the top, in really bad conditions, but we couldn't get down by the route, the easy route that we wanted to go down. So to abseiled in the north face, and because of the bad conditions, we went off route in the abseils and went down what's called a seracs field, which are 100-meter blocks of near vertical ice that we to abseil down using a Russian technique called Abelikov, which you drill ice screws into the snow at 90 degrees to each other, pull them out, then you put climbing cord in, 5mm cord, do a double sheet bend, and then you use that to abseil down. So we're abseiling in bad conditions on dodgy equipment in a storm, and you probably figured out I did actually survive, but I think it's the first time that I really thought we could die here, and it wasn't great. We got back. It was difficult finding the tent. We were soaked, really cold, completely tired out. Got to the tent about 2 in the morning, having left the tent at 4 in the morning there. But I didn't know what was going to kill me. Either the rope was going to come loose from the ice that was just holding that rope. Our whole life depended on having about 15 or 16 abseils down this ice face, and we made the mistake. We weren't meaning to go down that route, but we got so far down it when we realised our mistake that we weren't capable of climbing back up and going down another way. So just to sort of continue into this place full of crevasses, tottering ice blocks, and then trying to find the tent. And I learned a lot that day, and we were lucky. But I put my hands up. I was absolutely scared. But sometimes when you're scared, you've just got to try and remain calm. Really, a couple of times, just about losing it, just like we're going to die here. But just got to take a deep breath and just think things through anyway. But I was frightened.
One of the things that struck me when we talked the other night there, when you defined success on the mountains, and you said to me, success is defined by not reaching the top, but coming down safely.
Yeah, no, that's well put, Kenny. That's absolutely true. And I think sort of success for me for mountaineering is actually really having fun, and enjoying the mountains, enjoying being with friends in the mountains, coming back safely. And now maybe it's an age thing, but now I'm absolutely.
No, sorry, carry on. It's me.
So I'm absolutely sure that success doesn't necessarily mean getting to the top of the mountain now anyway. And I always sort of feel nowadays anyway, and you'll see this maybe in another video, that I talk about the summit is optional, getting down safely is mandatory. And I kind of use that as my mantra now for some decision making now, because I kind of think particularly when I was younger, I did one or two daft things when I was really young, and I think it was just sheer luck. I've learned from these things, and they talk about you get old climbers and bold climbers. You don't get old bold climbers, because if you're old, you stop being too bold, really. So it's safety. Think about safety. I'm aware of many accidents. I've lost a number of friends and people that I know climbing, and you learn from that, and it does get you thinking.
Okay, we need to rattle through the next few questions, Mark. So, one from an experienced climber is one of our instructors. When she was climbing the Nepal, one of the leaders left their crampons at the base camp. What's the silliest thing you forgot?
I was once in Nepal with a friend, and in fact it was Ong Chu who was in one of the videos there, and Ong Chu kindly agreed. He said, "Oh, I'll carry up the rope and the climbing equipment," because Ong Chu was going to lead the climb. In fact, that very climb that you saw. So I wanted to take something, and it was a lot lighter. And I said to him the night before, "I'll take the lunch and the food." So you can guess what's coming. Ong Chu got halfway up the mountain. He'd been leading it, and we found a nice, what we call a belay place, nice flat area. And Ong Chu says, "Oh, great spot for our lunch." And with no food at all, I'd completely forgotten all the food. And I searched my pockets there, and literally there was a there was what was left of what had been a burst bag of raisins and nuts, maybe about 8 or 9 of them there anyway, in manky old pockets, and we divided out these, and we to do the rest of the climb. But onto, where I thought he was going to hit me with his ice axe, he was just laughing about that, and we still laugh about that afterwards. So we basically a long day in the hills, and we like 3 or 4 raisins each to eat with a 12-hour day in the mountains, So that's probably one of the most silliest things.
So that covers the next question. So for another one of instructors asked, surely you have a packet of Haribos in your essential pouch, and we're just wondering if that's a Tanktastic or a Star Mix. So it's not, it's raisins. A one from our Deputy Commandant, what's your big next adventure? What have you got planned?
Well, I'm all things being well with COVID, with a colleague of Kenny and myself. I'm going back to the Alps anyway this year. I'm not going to Nepal this year, but I'm hoping to go back next year anyway. I've been invited on a couple of climbing expeditions. I can't go both of them, but I'm just trying to decide which one. So some friends plus a good Sherpa person who I know are going to do an unclimbed peak in the Kanchenjunga area, which I've never been to that area before. But I'm just trying to work out if I'm going to be fit enough to do that. And there's one other option to do some easier peaks in what's called the Dolpo area there. One of them's unclimbed. So I'm kind of thinking what one I'd like to do, and so I'm not sure, but I'll probably be back at Nepal next year. But for the moment, it's going to the Himalayas.
I don't know how you get enough holidays, mate. I don't get enough holidays off CPAP. But anyway, that's another discussion another time. So, an interesting one. So you've mentioned you've never really been interested in climbing Mount Everest, and we've talked about that several times. And it's not a lack of interest, but it's the time and the money. But yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting one. How do you protect your photographic equipment against environmental transitions, extremes of temperature and humidity?
Yeah, really good question.
Sorry.
Really good question, Kenny. I always have a chest pocket that I keep all batteries in a chest pocket to keep them warm all the time. And also in my sleeping bag when I'm having high camp, sometimes I'm maybe at 6,000 meters, 6,200 meters for a camp. And, it's obviously very cold there. And what I'll do is I'll have any equipment that's affected by cold temperatures, I'll put it in a bag like this, and I'll have it at the bottom of my rucksack, and I might have my inner boots in there as well, because boots can freeze during the night. So the bottom of my rucksack will have electronic equipment and some other stuff there, just to keep it warm during the night. And during the day, I'll have spare batteries, and I'll include one in a chest pocket.
Okay, another couple of quick ones, and then a question I have to ask you, and you have to tell us about. So, yes or no's? Is it essential to have an avalanche transceiver on some of these routes?
No, it's not essential, but a sort of knowledge of avalanche risks is important.
Okay, and Mark, I can't let you go without you telling everybody about the time that you were punched by a silverback gorilla in Rwanda.
Yes, yeah. So you want to hear about that, Kenny?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I've been really lucky. I went to Rwanda and I was climbing in the Virunga volcanoes, and they're actually famous for the mountain gorillas. Mountain gorillas are bigger than lowland gorillas, and at the time we were there was only 250 in the whole world. You only get them in Rwanda, small amount in Burundi, and some in Uganda, and you only get them high up in the mountains. So we were enormously privileged to sort of see them. We actually were part of that. I managed to blag my way onto a National Geographic expedition. And so we saw the mountain gorillas. We saw what's called the Susa family. There was 40 of them there in the whole family. Bear in mind, there's 250 in the whole world. I felt so privileged. And it was the mountain gorillas that Diana Fossey studied. And at one stage, I was taking photos of this mountain gorilla mother with a little baby that she was carrying. You know, it's so much like a mother carrying her own baby. It was beautiful to see. And then I heard the Rwandan guide we were with shouted out, "Get off, move." And I turned around to see what he was looking at, and there was another big gorilla coming along. And it was number 2 or number 3 silverback. And that was probably his wife and probably his young child. And I was in between them both. But being the silly bloke that I am, I thought this will make a great picture, and I'll just take this last picture there as this gorilla's coming along, and I'll jump off. So I did that. I got the last picture there, and the picture afterwards, the gorilla it's full on with a big staring eyes there. And I thought I jumped off where it was going, and I thought all was safe for about half a second. Then I found this big arm went round me. You know, I mean, their arms, they're like tree trunks, really. You know, it's a big arm, and it was actually part of this was recorded by National Geographic. So I've seen part of the video there anyway. So what the National Geographic didn't catch this bit, but the gorilla picked me up. The gorillas, mountain gorillas are, as I say, bigger than lowland gorillas, and I thought I was going to die there. And there's a big sort of like that noise. The sound recording was on, and then it sort of pushed, sort of sent me a bit flying into the jungle, but not in a way that I could have injured myself. You know, that was interesting. So, you know, that was the mountain gorilla, and you know, it's. I was interviewed by National Geographic after it, and it's so embarrassing because some people saw that video. It was an obscure, you know, pay-as-you-go channel. I think Wildest Encounters in the World it's called, and they happened to film me there. So he stuck a microphone under me and said, how do you feel? What was that like? And my answer was, I'll never wash my back again. You know, I was so much adrenaline going about, really. The probably most stupid answer you could probably give. But that was the mountain gorillas. But I feel a privilege because one thing that I do love, and you see a lot of it in the mountains. Mountains are really, you know, that place where the animals, the birds, the insects, the trees, the flora, the fauna. That's where you see it best. And whether it's mountain gorillas or up in Scotland seeing ravens or mountain hare, it's just, you know, seeing the wildlife is definitely a big part of the attraction to me for being in the mountains. But what a privilege getting grabbed by a mountain gorilla. And just interesting to me, that gorilla could have done anything to me. When you saw these gorillas, they basically vegetarians, and they tear trees down like that. You know, they just push down a big tree and tear it open just to eat the inside, really. These are bloody strong animals, and it didn't decided on this occasion not to kill me, but it made sure that I got the message, hey you scrawny little white man, I'm the boss round here, this is our territory, don't push your luck, mate. So I learnt another lesson in life.
Fantastic, absolutely brilliant, Mark. Could go on all night, Mark. And do you know what? There's millions of questions. You know, and over the years, as I say, Mark and I shared a lift for many years up and down the road, and apart from his woeful taste in music, I got first hand to listen to some of these stories. And we're really just touching the very, very edge of what Mark has got to tell, you know, in terms of some of his experiences, particularly climbing in Africa. Some of the Rwandan experiences, Mark, are legendary, including some of the weird stuff you've eaten as you've taken in the culture. But we are limited in time, unfortunately. But I'd like to say on my behalf, thank you very much, and I'll be in contact with you separately to say thank you properly. And I've got a small gift for you. As I say, Mark's mum is our next door neighbour to 5 Platoon in Lanark, and indeed Mark's mum looks after or keeps an eye on the hall for us as well. So he does have a connection with the ACF. But I'd like to ask, because I believe Lieutenant Colonel Coulter is the most senior officer on the call at the moment. I don't think our commandant was on for a while, but he's not with us at the moment. Is that correct? Yep. So, Lieutenant Colonel Coulter, would you like to say a thanks on behalf of the battalion, please?
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Thanks very much. Mark, thank you. Thanks for a very, very interesting evening. I'm just disappointed I didn't hear about the soil science because I want to see what's wrong with my garden out the front, but we can maybe have that another day. It's very interesting, and some of the cadets on call should relate. You were speaking about kit, the importance of kit, looking after your own kit, how important boots are, and that's all life experiences the cadets will have as well as being a young cadet. Abseiling was one of my favourite subjects as a cadet, and John Swan, who's on the call also, was one of the cadets who we abseiled together for many years, and John is now an instructor on the battalion. So yeah, and very interesting. And as I say, thank you. Thanks for giving up the time. If we do come out of COVID, hopefully one night you can come down to Lanark and meet us in person, and we will come along and see you. But thanks very much on behalf of the battalion. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, sir. Okay, Mark, thank you again. That's another one I owe you. Quite a few debts to repay there, and I'm sure I will do in fine style and time when we have the opportunity both to get out in the hills and listen to more of your really bad Jimi Hendrix bootleg LPs. Okay, so thanks very much indeed, folks. Thanks for coming along tonight. And we will all catch. So next week we do have a very special guest as well. Big boots to fill after Mark, and we do have another speaker next week. So please do make the time to come along and join us again. And yeah, we'll see you then. But thank you very much indeed, folks. Thank you again, Mark. Talk to you very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
Thank you.
again,
Bye.
Well done. Thank you. Bye bye.